From the first time we signed on, this station has made a strong commitment to local news. That commitment has not changed, but our news gathering techniques certainly have.
Hello, I'm Fred Hilligus, your ESSO reporter, who brings you complete news headlines at 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday over WSYR TV. Here on Channel 3, we maintain a complete news staff, reporters, newsreel men, writers, whose job is to make your ESSO reporter the finest of news shows.
That's how the news started for us 50 years ago. Our first anchor, Fred Hilligus, broadcasting out of the Kemper building.
It was all uncharted territory then. We were one of the first 100 stations in the U.S. to sign on. But this new station started with a strong commitment from its founder, E.R. Betancourt.
He wanted to have things other than traffic accidents, fires, and some of that stuff.
Back then, Fred, along with Joel Marinas doing sports and George Roberts weather, broadcast for just 15 minutes. In fact, it was more than 10 years before the news was expanded to a half hour.
By contrast, today we broadcast more than 5 hours every day, starting live at sunrise when you wake up and taking you all the way through 11:30 p.m. when you go to bed. The problem was not as much finding enough information to fill the time as it was dealing with relatively new technology.
It took 2 strong men and a couple of boys when we began wheeling the cameras around. But of course, there isn't much change except there's so much more of it.
The equipment wasn't just heavy, it was slow. Eras tend to be defined by wars. So can the evolution of our news gathering abilities. The first war we covered was the Korean War, but it would take us weeks to get this film back.
By the time Vietnam escalated, so did technology, and while these images were still on film, getting them here took hours instead of weeks.
And by the time the bombs started dropping in the Gulf War, the war was practically broadcast live thanks to remote portable satellites.
As the years advanced, so did this television station. By 1958, we outgrew our original home and began work on this new building, using technology from the GE plant just a few miles away in Liverpool. While some of the technology has changed, there have been some constants here.
I have been with the station since May of 1978, starting off as a reporter and working my way up to the anchor desk. But as long as I've been here, so has Laura Hand. Even longer, in fact. She started with us back in 1972. Other than the hair, not much has changed.
In 1976, Jim Kenyon joined the team, and it didn't take him long to establish himself as the market's premier investigative reporter.
But the truth be known, what we found in these hotel rooms is a lot more common than you may think.
When Paula Gorell joined us in 1986, she was part of this city's first 5 o'clock news. A few years later, she was also a part of the first ever morning newscast in the city.
And for more than a dozen years now, Wayne Mahar has been tracking the storms over the region.
But it's not just the people in front of the cameras who have spent the bulk of their lives here. So have many of our photographers and engineers.
I started in October of 1961.
And nearly 40 years later, Frank Rossi still takes pictures and tells stories.
I've been around a long time, so I've seen a lot of changes.
These days, Frank Rossi and the rest of the Action News team use a much more high-tech approach to bringing you the news. We use state-of-the-art digital video cameras. Computers are a part of nearly everything we do. We fly helicopters to give you a bird's-eye view of a story, and we incorporate satellites to bring you live shots from all over the world.
In 50 years of covering news in central New York, our look and our name may have changed, but one thing has remained the same, our basic commitment and philosophy to covering the news.
All you gotta do is find things that people are interested in.